Hello, beautiful people. How are you today on this Monday? So, I'd like to make a recording, a little conversational piece about my people, about my heritage, about my lineage, as I never did, so I figured, why not? But first, I'd like to start out by shining some light on some uninformed people. The last video that I did was entitled Secret Wars, and it more or less focused on the hidden secrets of the Nazis in America and the secrets of the church when it comes to Yeshua Christ. Well, one of the things that I want you to really understand, because I really want to cover this before I get into my family lineage and heritage, is understand the subjects of Freemasons, Masonry, and the occult. The word occult just means to do in secret. That's all. It doesn't mean evil, but it is evil. Anything done in secret. Why would you do anything in secret? Because majority of the people that know what you do wouldn't agree and wouldn't have anything to do with you. Or you're just straight up outright racist. So when you get into Freemasonry and the Nazi Party, what they have successfully done is they have infiltrated every faction of every secret organization from the Catholic Church, because they did a lot of things in secret. They committed a lot of heresies against people. I mean, some of the first heresies when the church came to power was what they did to the nuns, what they did to the first Druid nuns. They were a sect of virgin women, an old sect that didn't have anything to do with men, and they were more powerful than the church. And this is systematically what the church did to any organization that had more power than them. I'm talking about the Roman Catholic Church, the one that was started by the Hindu pagan Constantine. So what they actually did is they dismantled any organization that had been around longer than them, that had any more power than them, that the people looked up to. And specifically these Druid nuns, because they were the first what we know as organized doctors, because they were healers and they were women that healed people with natural remedies from our Mother Earth. So the church called them pagans and heretics, killed most of them, took their secret teachings, took a few of their head nuns and had them teach the church. Then the church had nuns. So then when you get into why the priests don't have wives, it doesn't have anything to do with Yeshua Christ. The priests don't have kids and wives because the church actually started losing too much land due to the priest having offspring after generations and generations. Because when the church first started, it was okay for the priests to get married and to have kids. But then when these kids and families continued to grow and need more money and consume more land that should have rightfully owned to the church, the Roman Catholic Church told the priests that they couldn't marry anymore. So this doesn't have anything to do with Yeshua Christ. So then when you study December 25th and the solstice and the pagan celebration that the Roman Catholic Church actually said this is when he was born, it wasn't. Some facts are, we all know that Mary and Yusuf, couldn't find a room in the town where he was born because they said it was during harvest season. It was during a festival. Well, what kind of harvest would you have in the dead of winter? What kind of festival would you have in the dead of winter? There's a solstice festival. That's a given. So they already hint you at this in the Bible, but most people don't want to study. And they say he was put in a manger and he was born in a stable. Well, if the town is full, where do you put your horses and animals and etc.? You don't take them in your room. You don't put them outside your, establishment where you're paying to stay. You put them in a stable. So the stables would have been full, scientifically speaking. So then they want us to believe that they put Yeshua Christ in a manger with very few clothing, a few garments to wrap that baby. He would have frozen, scientifically speaking. So scientifically speaking, try putting the birth of that man around a harvest time, which is when it's warm, not cold. So when people celebrate his birthday, it significantly puts his birthday along with when the Roman Catholic Catholicist calendar said it's the end of the year, New Year's. What, they're like 5 days apart. You think it's a coincidence? It's called Roman Catholic lies and convenience to get people to celebrate the solstice. This is a celebration that they had for many years, and they would celebrate for 5 days. From the 25th to the so-called beginning of the new year. But people don't want to study this, and they want to tack things onto his name. Now, this is the biggest heresy that the Freemasons have done throughout history. When you get into the Knights Templars order, and what they've done is after they got dismantled and so-called Christians claim to be Knights Templars. Well, look at all your lies in your organization. I believe in Yeshua, but I don't believe in Jesus. I know the difference between Yeshua and Jesus. Jesus has blonde hair and blue eyes. In the Bible it says Yeshua had feet of bronze, hair of wool, dreads. Wool hair like mine. Bronze is brown. Not tan, not pink, not blonde hair, blue eyes. So that's another heresy, and that's another lie. So getting back into the Knights Templars and what they discovered for the church, has anyone ever supposed that they discovered, with the help of Aryans, Muslims, the first Aryans, when they went over to the Middle East to find the Holy Grail, maybe the Muslims pointed their way, because that's exactly what they did to the truth. And they told them, you're not going to like what you find, but they dug anyway. Maybe they dug up the truth that there is no Jesus. It was Yeshua Christ. And he was a brown-skinned man, not the blue-eyed, blonde-haired Yeshua Christ that the church says this is he. So what if the Templars actually discovered this, and they told the church this, and the church kept in silence about this? Because if they went around saying that he was a brown-skinned man and the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus Christ is a lie, which coincides with what the Templars, systematically throughout history was said to believe, that Jesus Christ was a lie. They never said anything about Yeshua Christ. So one thing for sure is they discovered something that scared the church, and that allowed them to become the most powerful organization throughout Europe after they created the method of transferring money, which we know as banks today. So then the church and the French and the British plotted to overthrow the Templars because they were too powerful. They wanted whatever they found looking for the Holy Grail. And the church simply called them heretics and followers of Satan or the devil. So the Knights Templars were destroyed, and then they were revamped by the Nazis, by Adam Weishaupt, the guy that started the Barbarian Illuminati. The new Templar Order was revamped, renamed, reorganized in Bavaria, Germany. So then you get into the new Templar Order, which stretched throughout all of Europe, all of Russia, the Nazi movement, and then the Nazi movement started the Jesuit movement, and the Jesuit movement took over the Vatican, and now you have the Templars having control of whatever that secret was that they found, and they silently and secretly killed anybody that stood against them. So now they are the Jesuits, now they are the new Nazi Templar Order. Now they are the people that control the Vatican, the Templars, the Jesuits. This is a fact. So now I'm going to get into black history, because there is no actual black history. There is blacked out history. There is history of the sovereign Aboriginal man. There's history of the brown-skinned man, the red-skinned man, the yellow-skinned man, the tan man, the pink man. Scientifically speaking and artistically speaking, black is a shade, technically not a color. But when you ignorant people celebrate Black History Month, or you ignorant people say white power, you're very uneducated, and you're proving how educated you are just by simply saying and believing this. Because you're too stupid. You actually don't even want to take a third, fourth grade history class where they teach you that black and white are not colors, they are shades. But every day, I'm black this, you got a black president. Stick to your own kind, white power, Nazis this and this. Pure fucking ignorance. And this is what they want you to do, not to get educated. So they can give the lower level stupid ass Freemasons bullshit and you'll believe it. Print up some books, say this is the Holy Order, this is our history, and get you to believe that Caucasians built pyramids. I actually heard a talk with on YouTube that was a discussion with the Freemason daughter, and her parents were two 32-degree Freemasons, and they were teaching her that Caucasians built pyramids. Well, if Caucasians built pyramids, how did the Nubians teach the Greeks how to read and write in Timbuktu? And then the Greeks got exposed to Freemasonry in Timbuktu. How did the Nubians build a town called Kish? And then it developed into the town as you know as Egypt. And then the Romans came along and knocked off all the noses off the Sphinx because it was proven that that wasn't a Caucasian nose. It was actually an Aboriginal African sovereign nose. This is why all the noses are knocked off the Sphinxes, and all of the Aboriginal stones coming from Easter Island throughout all the world. Because Rome couldn't stand the fact that brown-skinned men, Aboriginal sovereign men traveled the world before them. So now these Nazis are going around teaching bullshit just like they do to you every day with the church and get you to celebrate the so-called birthday of Christ when it is nowhere near the day of God's Son's birth. Now the truth hurts, but if you study, you'll see it makes a lot of sense. It's called Nazi propaganda. What is propaganda? Printing and teaching lies. And then throughout time, getting ignorant ass, unstudied people to actually believe it's true, like these low-level fucking Freemasons. Because they're so stupid and they're so in awe to get into an organization like Freemason or Shriners, they will believe anything that they're given and take it as truth. And not take their ass to a library, not even take their ass on the internet and study various articles because, hey, it might not all be correct, but a smart person can put this and this and this and this together to form one conclusion. So then you get into the modern day slavery and the American Constitution. It was written by low-level Freemasons like Benjamin Franklin. Let me tell you something about Benjamin Franklin, okay? For all you Freemason men, you're full of shit. Your boys club is full of shit. And I love saying it because listen to this. I read a nice little book called Accomplishments of Women, which gives you the history of actual women that went back and changed history that get no credit for what we do and what they've done. And I say we because I mean the brown-skinned man. And that with these so-called Caucasians controlling the printing, controlling the schools, controlling history, have printed lies throughout history to push themselves up as a superior race. Pretty simple to do. So in this book called Accomplishments of Women, they tell a nice little story about Benjamin Franklin's wife, how she was a very, very intelligent mathematician, how she did the complex mathematics that actually allowed electricity to come down Benjamin Franklin's kite that he loved to fly, that actually discovered how you harnessed electricity, these complex mathematics. So then after that, you know, the Freemason Edison built the light bulb. And then Tesla, you know, the Russian outdid any of them, but they stole so much from that man. My point is, this book specifically points out how Freemasons throughout history, their boys club, has specifically throughout history changed things and printed things and wrote things for sometimes hundreds of years, and then women have gone back and proved them wrong. Like the tomb of a so-called pharaoh was thought to be a tomb of a pharaoh, and it was a tomb of a queen. And a male that was brought up on male principles believed that no woman could ever amount to this kind of power in Egypt. No woman could do these great things. This man was proven wrong by a woman actually going in and studying, and it's actually documented. And that so-called tomb of a pharaoh that these men had printed in books and still in history books today, they say it's a tomb of a pharaoh, but this woman went back and proved it was a tomb of a queen, and she built this building for her love that she couldn't be with because she had to be married to another man because he was so-called royal. Queen did this. And no, it wasn't Cleopatra, it was Nefertiti. So this is history. So now you're really starting to, I hope, see what I truthfully want you to understand mentally and what they've done to us through brainwashing, through TV, through history, through schools, through everything, especially in America, when you have so many stupid motherfuckers just working all day and coming home. And what do? They don't read. I've been looking at the internet all day. I've been sifting through papers all day. I'm tired. I'm going to turn on the TV and learn some more bullshit and dumb down my mind. I'm going to fall asleep in front of the TV so the TV can brainwash me when I'm asleep. This is America. So if you're wondering what's going on, what's happening in this country, take a good look at your friends, your family, and yourself. Am I talking about anything that possibly describes you or somebody that you know? It's 2013, people. The brainwashing techniques and the fucking Nazi propaganda, you cannot even fathom how controlled it really is, because these fucking Nazis were brought here to Texas under Operation Paperclip to work on secret operations like Operation Phoenix in a base in San Antonio, to work on the NASA space projects, and completely continue to lie to the American public that we're going into outer space with the space shuttle, people. But it is known that the Nazis perfected vertical lift and so-called unidentified flying objects with the Nazi Bell Project. There's plenty of documentation on this. I will post the videos and articles that I know of under this video so you can watch them. So maybe one person can hear this and decide to break out of the matrix. But fortunately, there is no red or green or blue pill. There's one pill. It's called truth. The question is, are you ready to swallow it? So then when you get back into the Freemason, Benjamin Franklin, the slave owner, the plantation owner, the Freemason, all the Freemasons that wrote the so-called American Constitution, our forefathers, our great forefathers, they were fucking racist. How do I know they were racist? Because they put this simple clause in the American Constitution. If you have 5% of Afro blood, they say negro, but I'm going to say Afro blood, you are considered a negro. And you are technically not human. This is in the American Constitution. So then when you get into the Emancipation Proclamation, which was also written by our racist Freemason forefathers. Now, before I get into the Emancipation Proclamation, let me tell you how ignorant even Martin Luther King and all of the people around him were. How ignorant the Afro-American public is even today. The Emancipation Proclamation was filed, the actual law was made on June 16th. Juneteenth. So then they give you Black History Month. And I don't get it. For the educated Afro-American people know that the biggest trick and lie that was ever put on us was the Emancipation Proclamation. But then when you go back to say, Martin Luther King's speech. He's talking about the Emancipation Proclamation and I have a dream and my people will be free. Well, we weren't free. This is what our Nazi Freemason forefathers actually did during the Emancipation Proclamation. They actually had to figure out a way to keep control of the slaves and to trick the rest of the United States into thinking that slavery was over and have the slaves give them some more rights. So technically, let me tell you that scientifically it was proven that a slave is a more productive slave if the slave perceives that that slave is free. So this is what the Emancipation Proclamation actually did for the Afro and the sovereign slaves. Because I say sovereign because there were Afro sovereign Moors here on this land before the Indians got here on this land, and the Indians and the Moors were warring, and the Indians actually made the treaties with these fucking Nazis, and they got put on reservations, but not before they hunted down the rest of the sovereign people that were here on this land and enslaved them and killed them. So there was actually a war over this land before the Europeans and the Pilgrims came. Blackfoots. They were part of these sovereign tribes, the Moor tribes that were part of the first world travelers, part of that bloodline that pissed off Rome and Egypt when they saw the noses, which when the Romans came to Egypt, they just knocked off the noses off the Sphinx because it pissed them off, because the noses were technically and biologically Afro in descent. So then you really start to get a better picture of what happened here in the Americas. Because the Afro Aboriginals were here before what you know as Latino, before what you know as Latin. Because you can go back to the Mayans, and the word Mayan means illusion. Because the Mayans isn't their name, it was a name that was given to them. Just like the Nubian Moors were before the Mayans. And no one knows what happened to both of these people. They just disappeared. There are no bones, there are no traces of the human race. Maybe they had ships and they just took off. Who knows? But technically and scientifically, no one knows what happened to these two races of people. The Latins don't know. It scared the shit out of the Europeans because they print books and they print so much bullshit in history. They try to wipe the Afro sovereign history out of history. And they spend billions of dollars doing it. So then when you get into the Emancipation Proclamation, and after they mixed in the Haitians, the Jamaicans, and the Indians all together and bred them all together and made the sovereign Afro man forget that he was already here, and have so many Afro-American people claiming, yeah, my Indian heritage, when the Indians descended from India, thus that name. So then when you get into the real Afro-Aboriginal culture, most Afro-Americans don't even know. And then you have a lot of them were actually descended from Haiti and Jamaica, which is still actually this bloodline, because the actual Nubian bloodline stems from pre-Ming dynasty when Africa and China and those continents were one. And you can see remnants of these short, pygmy-like people in the Philippines, where they discovered that tribe that was untouched by humanity. And they were short, dark brown skin. And they had Aboriginal noses. These are Aboriginal sovereign people. And they were still living proof of it, living in the forest of the Philippines. Going back to when you go to the Philippines, you can see Philippines people that get darker than me. This comes from when Africa and that continent, Asia, were one. But then you have the Baja Gavita and the Indians bringing about their lies with the blue-eyed, blonde-haired gods, blue-skinned gods, where the Nazis revamped their racism. Off the Baja Gavita, thus their inverted swastika. They don't have a history. It is actually stolen from other people's history. The word Aryan is an Arab word. The Arabs are the first Aryans, and they know it. This is why Nazis and the oil business and the heroin business and the trade of women and the cartel of children and all of that shit go in the same basket. Arabs, harems. Muslims, Arabs. Anasazi Jews, liars, white power. All of them going after the so-called unfit people. The Anasazi Jews knew that the Jews of Eastern Europe were descendants of the first Hebrews, which were Afro in descent. If you look at where Egypt was, where the Hebrews were, what color were those people? The Greeks, again, came into Egypt after they were taught by the Nubians, who built Kish, which grew into Egypt, which Egypt started practicing paganism when the Afro-centric bloodlines started mixing with the European bloodlines, and it grew into Egypt. But those people were still of dark skin. And from this came Freemasonry, because the Nubians didn't want to have anything to do with them, and they just walked out of Egypt and left those heathens. So then, now you get a clear picture of history. Well, the Emancipation Proclamation was specifically this. To emancipate means to transfer ownership of your property to another organization or establishment. So technically what they did is these slave owners agreed with the Rothschild Bank, which Hitler was a Rothschild. The Rothschilds sponsored the Nazi movement. Bush's Nazis. I mean, Bush's great-great-grandfather got caught sending billions to the Nazis with the Freemason Skull and Bones Bank of New York. But never, he was tried for war crimes. No, they just gave him a slap on the wrist and they let all those Freemason fuckers go. Prescott Bush. Prescott Anheuser-Busch. Anheuser beer. Anybody drinking any Nazi beer? I don't drink. It's fucking poison. If you drink Coke, another Nazi company. So what you have in the Emancipation Proclamation is these Nazis tricked the Afro-American public into thinking that they're free because they know that a slave that thinks he's free is more productive. Thus, this is what we have even today. We are not free. So all of you ignorant Afro-American people and all of you so-called tan, pink people, white people, whatever, that celebrate Black History Month, what do you think these Nazis are doing every Black History Month? They're just laughing their ass off at you. Behind closed doors, of course. Because you can't even go in the library and study or look in a dictionary or type on the internet definition of emancipate. I mean, this actually proves your actual stupidity and laziness and lets them know how much power and control they have over you. So then, in the Emancipation Proclamation, they proclaim this. They proclaim the new form of slavery because they transferred your Afro ass to another establishment and gave you a little bit more freedom. They just said, okay, we're not going to kill you. We're not going to lynch you. We're not going to do what we've been doing for over 250 years that we've been doing to your Afro race. We're going to give you a little bit more freedom to see what your people are actually capable of. Now we know Beyonce sell out, Jay-Z sell out, Kanye West sell out. All those rappers sell out. Rick Ross, that's an ex-cop, sell out. Freemasons, sell out. That still kiss and lick the ass of these Nazis. All of them. And they do it with pride. Look at Beyonce with the last halftime Super Bowl show with all of these stupid Afro motherfuckers running around to catch a ball. And it's the biggest event viewed in America and all over the world. American football, where you're watching these muscle-bound idiots run around and hit each other and knock each other over to catch a ball. European soccer is just as stupid. I'm sorry, you're giving millions of dollars to a motherfucker to run around and to kick a ball, which is descended from a Mayan custom and a Mayan game where they cut the head off their captives and wrap that head and make a ball of it and kick it through a circular hoop on the side of the wall. This is European soccer. This is soccer. It is evil in descent. So now you have the Afrocentric queen of sellout, Beyonce, that's still a slave, giving props to her enslavers in front of everyone on TV, and everyone just eats it up and gets brainwashed and bowed down to these fucking Nazis. So then in the Emancipation Proclamation, let me tell you what else our wonderful Nazi forefathers did, these Freemasons. They were really smart. So not only did they give these slaves a birth certificate, which was a bond, they had to establish how much a slave would be worth after a lifetime of wages. I mean, that is your slave. Isn't that right, Freemasons? You ain't just going to give him up for free. So the Rothschild Federal Reserve Bank said this. How about $1 million? But we won't give you this $1 million. We'll give you this $1 million in fake money, paper money. It doesn't technically exist, but for us and for you and for us money masters, we know how to use it and control it and dupe these fools. So we'll give you a bond. We'll call it the straw man bond. That is actually your birth certificate. If you will look where on your birth certificate where it should say your mother, it doesn't say mother up under your mother's name, it says informant. And in the lower right hand corner of your birth certificate, there's a red number, that's your stock trading number. So from the day you're born, your mother informs the Federal Reserve Corporation and the UCC that you are born, that they have another slave to trade, it for $1 million in secrecy on the secret black Rothschild Federal Reserve market. So they take this money and they invest it and they play with it your whole entire life. So imagine if you're a Nazi Rothschild and you're getting millions and millions of dollars a day to play with on the stock market you invested. In a year, you've got hundreds of millions. 30 years, 40 years, that million, you turn that 1 million into trillions off one slave. This is the Emancipation Proclamation, and this is exactly what they did. So then, when your slave dies, they just pocket the money. And if you're like me, when that family member dies after my sister died, do they tell you about this money? No. They leave you in debt. Has anybody tried paying for a funeral, casket, a plot of land to keep a dead body on? It's expensive. So another thing that these actual Nazis did, because I'm proving it, these Freemasons, our forefathers, did with the straw man bond is actually this. This is why they actually really did it. It's all about money, people. So they needed to pass a law that would ensure that they wouldn't get prosecuted in court for their illegal transactions. Can anybody say, hey, the Vatican also did this? The Vatican passed laws protecting pedophiles and men that rape kids. Passed laws to protect them from prosecution in Vatican City. So if you're a pope and you molest kids and you go to what they know as the Vatican City, the Vatican laws protect you. Hey! This is a fact. So in the Emancipation Proclamation, our Nazi Freemason forefathers did this. They passed an act that is attached onto the Emancipation Proclamation, because you can study this, and I will post the video, the corporation, where it is explained, the whole thing. I'm not going to really get into it. But basically, in a nutshell, they actually passed laws giving a group of men the same rights as a straw man, as a slave. Yes, a group of men the same rights that a slave has. Actually, a corporation, they have more laws that protect them after the Emancipation Proclamation, because they actually did this so they could actually make more laws to protect their group of men even more. So what you have in the Emancipation Proclamation, if you have our Nazi forefathers that say, yeah, we're going to give you your freedom, slaves. We're going to give you a bond and start trading your Afro ass in secret and not let you know, because you're too ignorant to actually read about the Emancipation Proclamation, because we've kept your people from reading for over 250 years. And then we're going to continue to bring in slaves for 60 more years through the port of New Orleans and cash in on the Emancipation Proclamation on each slave that we bring in for 60 more years, which is my descendant, my grandmother. This is why I am here. Because through the port of New Orleans, slaves were brought in for 60 more years after the Emancipation Proclamation. So that puts slavery actually for about 310 years. Technically, not 245 years, which the textbooks teach. If you will go in and study the history of New Orleans and study why brothels were so prevalent in New Orleans and why the brothel Storyville was the last brothel closed, well, then you'll understand the history of the prostitution and slavery in New Orleans. So now you really start to get a big picture of the birth of the corporation. You have a group of men that have one corporate face, like Ronald McDonald, like AT&T, like who's the face of Victoria's Secret? Who's the face of GM, a car? They have one public face, and they get you to identify with this face through marketing, through brainwashing. But behind this public face, you have a body of men that have one objective: money, the bottom line, productivity, the bottom line. That's all they care about. So in the Emancipation Proclamation, they did simply this. They gave the body of men the right, with one corporate face, the same rights as a slave on paper, as a straw man bond. So the Emancipation Proclamation was the biggest lie ever told to Americans since fucking 9/11. So please, get educated. Asian people, Afro people, Caucasian people. Get educated, because in actuality, guess what? After the Rothschilds caused the second stock market crash in the United States history, they knew what they were doing. First, they took the gold. They made it illegal to have gold. They passed laws through the Federal Reserve for this. And then the Federal Reserve tried to push the work on tax law, which doesn't exist, IRS Nazis. Wesley Snipes should not be in jail for not paying taxes, people. There is no law that says us as Americans should pay taxes on our work. But the Rothschild Federal Reserve Nazi Bank made the IRS to enforce a law that doesn't exist. To this day, every American that has had their property confiscated and taken away from them and had their lives ruined by the fucking Nazi IRS, it's bullshit. One word: show me the law. Look that up on the net. Show me the law. Show me the law that says we should pay work on our taxes. But the Federal Reserve was allowed to make a bank. The Federal Reserve was allowed to make the IRS to enforce this law that no one agreed to. So because no one agreed to pay taxes on their work, I'm not gonna, pay taxes on my work, but tons of these ignorant Americans do. You work like a fucking dog and get paid barely anything, and then taxes come and boom! I need this money to pay for bullets for 9/11. Award it. These Nazis started. The IRS enforces these laws. People are scared of these auditors. Well, next time this auditor comes to you, tell this motherfucker to show me the law. Show me the law where it says I should pay taxes. Anyways, when you get into what these Nazis actually did, they caused the stock market crash that forced America into a hole. A hole that they couldn't get out of because the Rothschild Federal Reserve Nazi Bank controlled America. They took the gold through the law that made it illegal to hold gold. So they put all the gold in Fort Knox, and then the Rothschild Federal Reserve Bank silently took that gold because they said the American establishment owed them this money. Fort Knox is empty. So they didn't have Fort Knox for collateral, and then they forced the second economic crash. Then they said, hey, American government, you owe us. Your company, which is the United States of America, it's a company, it's not even a country. Obama, the president, is the president of a fucking corporation, sucking the dick of these fucking Nazis. So anyway, when you get into technicality and legality, what they actually did is this. They said, okay, well, we need something for you to put up for collateral, or we're going to own your ass. You can do this. For every person born in the United States after this day, you will put them under the Straw Man Bond Act in secrecy. So the United States corporation, the presidents, agreed to it. So every person born in the United States after the second stock market crash that the Rothschild Nazi European monarch actually brought together and carried it out, they enslaved everybody. The corporations, our so-called forefathers, the house of the Rothschild, the house of the Green Shield, Hitler's family. Evelyn Rothschild is Queen Elizabeth, ugly, nasty ass Luciferian witch. Evelyn Rothschild is, hey, her advisor. Blue Lodge, Aleister Crowley took the Blue Lodge to a new level. Aleister Rothschild. Hitler Rothschild. Hitler's grandfather was a Rothschild. His grandmother was an Ashkenazi Jew. So what you have in the Nazi occupation is you have the racist Jews killing the sovereign Afro descendant Jews. But then when you go to Israel, how bad are the Afro-Israelites prosecuted? They're prosecuted more than Nazis in Israel. But the first Hebrews were of Afro descent. And they don't like when you can prove it or even say it. Thus brings me back to all the heresy throughout time committed by the church, because they want you to believe in a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus Christ when Jesus is not his name. Mary did not call him Jesus. His name was Yeshua. He was a Hebrew. He had hair of wool and skin of bronze. He was a brown, Afrocentric, beautiful man. And if the Templars, which the Templars probably found this out, and with the Aryans, the Muslims, the first Aryans that buried it because they knew where it was, found out that he was of Afro descent, and that the church was committing heresy and lies, because they don't want to give credit to the Afro man, they want to enslave us. And they would rather kill anyone that had any proof of the truth about one man. Because they have you worshiping lies every day. Talking lies every day. And you really believe these lies to be true because this is all they have taught you. I can't blame you for being ignorant, but I can blame you for not going on the internet and typing in words, going to a library and reading like I did before the internet, and educating yourself and understanding this shit just don't make any sense. They're Nazi propaganda lies. Because they're so bent on pushing up the pink Aryan man. Why? What do you actually have against my people? This is what I'd actually like to ask them. You're mad because we traveled the world? You're mad because my descendants, the Nubians and the Mayans, possibly built their own ships or possibly called down the real aliens and they took us away because of your paganistic asses? Which probably may be the same thing that happens. Who knows? But it makes a lot more sense than what they're trying to teach you in school and say it's history. And I mean, my nephew has his teacher teaching him that the Beatles started rock and roll. The Beatles! When my nephew told me this, I was just like, oh my, I wanted to shoot his teacher. His Caucasian teacher teaching him that Beatles started rock and roll. That is absolute heresy. Chuck Berry started rock and roll. But hey, because the teacher really wants to believe, love the Beatles. His dad loved the Beatles. His exposure to rock and roll was through Caucasian society. Then, hey, Caucasians must have started it, right? Please, people, get educated. It ain't a black thing. It ain't an Asian thing. It ain't a Caucasian thing. It's a truth thing. Don't you want to know the truth? I will leave you with this. Who loves God as much as I do? Who loves God's Son as much as I do? The reason why I sound so pissed off in this video is because I am. Because I've been lied to my whole life about one man. That is Christ. And the things and the scrolls that tell the truth about this one man have been hidden, buried, and protected by death oaths. If the truth about that man were to come out, and the people hiding the truth about that man are Caucasian in descent, the truth about that man is being hidden by an organization, a Jesuit, Nazi, monarch, Freemason, Templar organization, the Jesuits. About that one man. A cult that is proven to attack children, to attack women, with their Arab harems, with the laws that they pass protecting men that rape kids, pedophile Vatican. These men hide the law and the truth that was written by prophets and even words that were said to be written by him. They put this in the Vatican vault. So this truth pisses me off because, hey, I'm not blind. I will see what God chooses me to see, and I will speak what God chooses me to speak, because I pray every day for God to make me a vessel to find the path of Christ. Why? Because I want to be what Christ was. I want to do what Christ did. I want to learn what Christ learned, because Christ said in the Bible, if you follow my teachings, you will do as I do. You will be more than I am. This is what he wanted. I don't see any pedophile, Vatican, pagan priest are Freemason, Arabs, Aryans, Muslims walking on water are doing 5% of what that man did. They feared that man so much that they buried his teachings or anything about him in secrecy till today. And for the people that wanted to know the truth, it was punishable by death, because it was the Magi that told the Knights Templars where to find the so-called Holy Grail. Arabs, Muslims, Rosicrucians. So I know my history, and I know where the lies stem from, and who taught who how to do what, and where the actual power struggle come from, because they told the Templars, if I tell you, you will always owe me and belong to me, and if I ever need anything or tell you to do this and this and this, you will do it. And the Templars agreed. Magi, Muslims, original Aryans, Arabs. So now you understand the heresy of history and the lies. I am Zacharias, Zaccheus. This is my God-given name. Read in the Bible about Zacharias. It's a very interesting story. Even God came to Zacharias and showed Zacharias the way. Learn about Christ. Get pissed off, get upset, because they've enslaved and lied to us throughout history, and now it's clear to see. But don't let this anger sit inside you. Be creative with it. Play with it. Have fun with it. This is what I'm doing. Let it out. You never know who you may teach and who may be listening. So thank you. Please visit my Facebook page, Zakaos, Zakaos. That's how I spell my Hebrew name, because no one could spell Zacch, excuse me, Zacceus correctly. And so I spell it Zakaos. And in the Hebrew language, they know what Zakaos means, I was told. In the Hebrew language, it means absolute chaos and destruction. So I was told this by some Hebrews. Kind of fitting, huh? It means absolute chaos and destruction for who? Not for me and my people and the people that I love. For anyone that stands against us. Zacchaeus Breedlove Ewing at Facebook. Zacchaeus Breedlove Ewing on YouTube. Have a blessed day. Get educated. Peace.